Gracias.
Good morning, everyone. Just give me a minute. I want to make sure that this is on live.
Buenos días con todos. Solo denme un minutito para ver si está en Facebook Live.
Veronica, you might be in the main room. I hear you very clearly.
Now, Dr. Lee?
I still hear you very clearly. I'm in the English room.
No.
Okay, now I don't hear you. Yeah. Oops. Somehow Facebook is a little strange. Let me try one more thing. Okay. Sorry, almost there. Okay, I think we are there. So let's start with the usual opening recitation. Dala Dhamma Jebe Dra Nopar Jebe Ge Tarba Dan Tam Je Kempe Bardu Chopra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jebe Ma Nankada Yampe Senchen Tam Je Dewa Tam Den Dungyao Dandre Nerdu Lana Mepa Yang Dabra Zobe Chanchu Rinpo Je Dobra Je Dala Dhamma Jebe Dra Nopar Jebe Ge Tarba Dan Tam Je Kempe Bardu Chopra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jebe Ma Nankada Nyampe Senchen Tam Je Dewa Dan Den Dungyao Dandre Nerdu Lana Mepa Yang Dabra Sobe Chanchu Rinpo Je Dobra Je Dala Dhamma Jebe Dra Nopar Jebe Ge Tarba Dan Tam Je Kempe Bardu Chopra Jeba Tam Jege Su Jebe Ma Nankada Nyampe Senchen Tam Je Dewa Dan Den Dungyao Dandre Nerdu Lana Mepa Yang Dabra Zobe Chanchu Rinpo Je Dobra Je De Je Du Sama Genki Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go Mashi Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go Du Tering Ne Sung Te Ne Ma Tsam Da Samki Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go San Je Chodang Tsoki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dane Kyabzu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sanangi Jola Pancher Sanje Drupra Shu Sanje Chodang Tsoki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dane Kyabzu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sanangi Jola Pancher Sanje Drupra Shu Sanje Chodang Tsoki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dane Kyabzu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sanangi Drola Pancher Sanje Drupra Shu Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Tang Tewen Gendan Tempra Gyuji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudang Drewa Gyuji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Tame Drewa Gyuji Niring Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyong La Nepra Gyuji Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewe Gendan Tempra Gyuji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Ji Gyudan Drewa Gyuji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Tame Drewa Gyuji Niring Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyong La Nepra Gyuji Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamche Dewa Dang Dewe Gendan Tempra Gyuji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Ji Gyudang Drewa Gyuji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Tame Drewa Gyuji Niring Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyong La Nepra Gyuji. Then now, the 7-branch worship. You can do it in the different languages, in the different translation room. Veronica, you have that document? Can someone send to Veronica? We shared it before. You might not have seen it. Omar, or maybe send to the WhatsApp logistic groups. Waiting also shared in the main chat screen on Zoom for anybody else who wants it. So in the main room, today I'm going to chant this in Tibetan. So all of you can decide whether you want to do it in the language that you know, or you can do it in Tibetan and follow along. Jine suda jeju jede na duzum sheba miyi senge gu nagi malu deda tamche la ludang aye dangwe chagi wo zangbo jobe monlam tobda ge gyawa tamche iki ngunzum tu shingi dune lurab tu pa ye gyawa kunla rab tu chase lo Duji dena dunye sanje na sangye segi una shubhada deda jugi yina malupa tamche gyawa dagi gangwa mo deda ngapa midze gyazo nam yangi yenla gyazo dragunji gyawa kunji yonten rabzo ji dewa sheba tamche dagi to Meto dampa drengwa dampa da Sene namdang jukpa dukcho da Marme chodang tukpo dampa ye Gyawa deda lani chobar ji Nasa dampa namdang dricho da Jime purma rera nyampa da Kube kepar pape chukunji Gyawa deda layang chobar ji Chopa gana lame gyaje wa deda gyawa tamche layang mo Sampo chola debe topda gi gyawa gunla chaseo chopar ji Doja shedang timu wangi ne lodang adang deshin iki kya Dingpa dagi gipa jeje par deda tamche dagi sosor sha Chochu gyawa kundang sangye se rangya namdan loda me lodan Chowa kunji sonam kangla ya Deda kunji jese dayira Changang nam chochu jiden domada Chanchu rinpa sanje macha ne Gompo deda dagi tamche la Kolo lana mepa korwa gu Nyangye datung kanshe deda la Drowa kunla penshin dewe che Kyaupa shingi dune sopa ya Dagi tamo rabja sowar ye Jaze wadang chujing shabada Jeze irang kushin sowa ye Gewa chungse dagi jisakpa Tamche dagi changchun chirngu Durjin Chawan Tile Naro Dhamma Mida Pupa Durjin Kun Kadrin Chundan Sawe Lame Shab Sakju Lama Yidam Chukyong La Suwa Depsu Dakji Chin Chilo Kya Genki Dome Sabling Gen Tope Tonsu Nyong La Kya Tsume Kya Wa Durje Changpa Jiden Kumpo Shabla Dudu Tadu Sangye Kyo Leme Jinji loji tuji jininge mumpe sene gansem torde dudobra jinji lo hongwa jinyu jinu chanson pe ma gesa dombo la yasen chuki ngadum nye pe ma june she shuda kodo kando mampu kora keki jese dha drugi jinji loji shesu so guru pe ma se de hong omin chu yin yigin puda ne du sun sanje kunji no moni rasen chukung yon so don se basta we la me shala so wa de so shi bugi ju shi me to dari la lin shi nin den gen pa de san je shin do me de bo wa ye do gu nam da shin la ge wa sho ku so nyon so la me so nam la jin nang sang so de shin ne ge jo da lo long jo nang si yon she la la me jo ge ngo dum se do so cha se wa dang jo jin shao pa dang ji so ye rang gu shin so wa ye ge wa chung se da ge jin sa pa tham che so be chang che che ngo om guru deva dha gini rana mendala pradeja so semchen nam ki sampadang lo ye jidra jidawa je jun te mo te ba ye choki go long kor do so So we have in the last class covered up to those two verses that are used in almost all Tibetan ceremonies for generating bodhicitta. Those two verses from chapter 3 are used as the primary verses for generating bodhicitta, the main part. Some of these bodhicitta ceremonies can last for 2 days. For example, in Drigunkagyu, there is a very special generating of bodhicitta that is done over 2 days. But even there, like at the heart of that, it's reciting these two verses. Which is verse 23 and 24. So 23 and 24, let's read that again in the respective languages. It's 23 and 24 in the Tibetan text that I'm using the English translation of. So the translators, if you can help your groups find those two verses. So I'm going to read from the translation I have. And once you found yours, you can read as well. Just as all the Buddhas of the past have brought forth the awakened mind, and in the precepts of the Bodhisattva, step by step abode and train, likewise for the benefit of beings, I will bring to birth the awakened mind, and in those precepts, step by step, I will abide and train myself. So in Tibetan, I'm going to recite that 3 times now. let's see.
Dr. Lee, I can't find in Spanish. It's verse 23 and 24 in English,
Yes.
right?
In the English, and again, Bodhisattva. Can somebody, Antonio? Can you send to Veronica?
No, Antonio is not here.
Oh,
He was. That's why I am translating.
yes. Can somebody send what Antonio sent? Antonio has been sending, because the Spanish text, as we were explaining, the Spanish translation is translated from Sanskrit. And so the verses are a little off. So Antonio has been sending to everyone the translation that is done from the Tibetan and from the English that I'm using, verse 23 and 24. Yeah, Omar has sent.
Verónica,
Sí, sí.
En el texto que tú tienes de Alan de Casa Tibet,
Ajá.
los versos que leyó es el 22 y 23.
22 y 23. A ver,
Está
voy a
como
checar.
desfasado un verso.
Y solo el hecho de experimentarlo es eso, ¿no?
En el capítulo 3.
A ver, un ratito. En el capítulo 3. Ajá. Ya, al igual que los sugatas, es ese, ¿no?
Sí.
Ya, ok. Gracias, muchas gracias, Omar.
Yeah. So, yeah, different translations and. So anyway, let's look at this. So 23 and 24. So these two verses, it's for generating both aspects of relative bodhicitta, which is the aspiration aspect and the action aspect. So the first verse of these two say, just as all the Buddhas of the past have done it this way, and given rise to bodhicitta, that it is said is talking about aspiring, aspiration bodhicitta, and they too have step by step, gradually cultivated until they reach their goals, cultivated as bodhisattvas until they reach their goal and became Buddhas. Then likewise, now, for the benefit, that now is verse 24, it says, then likewise now, for the benefit of beings, I too will generate, will aspire to Buddhahood, and I too will train step by step, gradually, cultivate until I too reach the Buddha state. So this is the two verses. So in the commentaries or teachings that you might have come across on taking generating this bodhicitta, you probably have come across what's known as the 3 ways of practicing this bodhisattva path. The analogies given are it's the ferryman or the boatman, then the shepherd, and then the king. So these are the 3. So let's say the king-like manner of practicing or training as a bodhicitta that is king-like, bodhicitta that is boatman-like, and bodhicitta that is shepherd-like. So often it is explained as 3 options, 3 kind of ways to do it. So the king-like way is basically saying until the prince becomes the king of the nation, the prince doesn't do much until he achieves the position of the king. Then as the king, he then greatly benefit and run the country. So this one basically says, you don't do the benefiting of beings directly until you are Buddha. So that's the king-like bodhicitta. Then the ferryman or the boatman, or you could say the pilot of the plane, that's the second type of bodhicitta. So the pilot or the ferryman, how it happens in this second type of bodhicitta is both the captain and the passengers will leave the airport or the shore and travel and arrive at the same time. So this is the second type of bodhisattva way. Together, yourself and sentient beings go, you take them to the destination together. So that's the second, the boatman, the ferryman, or now, you could say the pilot. And the third one, the shepherd-like, is said to be like a shepherd, meaning then the shepherd doesn't go to bed, doesn't go home for dinner and rest until they make sure that all their sheep has been safely contained back in their pen, locked up, protected. So the sheep all come home first, arrive first. So this is said to be the Bodhisattva who puts sentient beings and their welfare to safety first before the Bodhisattva himself rests. So this is the third type. So I want to elaborate and discuss this a little bit further, because I find that a lot of our, I would say, misunderstandings and confusions about what being a bodhisattva or cultivating the bodhisattva actual path entails. I think there's some kind of confusion here. So let's take a little bit of time to look at this further. Especially the third type, the shepherd-like bodhisattva, that model has given rise to the idea that what is involved in the bodhisattva path or the bodhisattva way is the idea that this individual will postpone. You even read this all over the place. They'll write like this. The individual, the one who is on the bodhisattva path, will postpone their own attainment of Buddhahood until all beings have achieved Buddhahood. But can this be taken literally to be how a bodhisattva practices? Yes, it is true. There are some sutras that talk about like the great deeds of this or that bodhisattva. Especially like there's a bodhisattva called Shittigarbha or earth store bodhisattva, Dizang in Chinese, that made a vow that says, you know, until the hell realms are all empty, I shall not become Buddha. So you have definitely expressions like this, vows of this sort. But again, we have to look deeper and say, but can this be literally how someone practices the bodhisattva path? I will say that no, this cannot be literally true. Because if this was to be understood as literally the way it is done, or that you should do this way, then there is a couple of problems. The biggest problem is, then what this implies is, you can only help sentient beings if you do not become a Buddha. Right? The idea that, oh, I'm going to postpone my attaining of Buddhahood so that I can stick around and help beings. So this is saying, like, once you achieve Buddha, you become useless. That's why you want to stick around. Don't make any sense. Second problem related to this first problem is not understanding that the reason we cycle in samsara, the reason we remain in samsara, is because of the presence of afflictive emotions and confusion or ignorance. So if the Bodhisattva vow is the vow that says, I am going to keep some confusion or kleshas around so that I can stick around, that again doesn't make sense. As long as we have confusion, as long as we have afflictive emotions, we cannot 100% be helpful to sentient beings. Maybe we can be 99%, but still 1% missing. So the sooner we remove all confusion, all afflictive emotions, then the more capable we will become to benefit beings. So there is no reason to postpone Buddhahood. Also, it's as if you are saying, you clear confusion, you clear ignorance, you clear, until the last moment you say, oh, I'm going to keep a little bit of confusion so that I can remain around to help others. I mean, just that statement itself don't make any sense. What do you mean you're going to keep some ignorance so that you can help beings? In fact, the idea that a bodhisattva has to postpone enlightenment so that he or she can benefit others, can save others, can be around, is based on a nihilistic view of what Buddhahood is. The idea that once you achieve Buddhahood, you are gone. Right? You are no longer relevant. You are no longer active in any way whatsoever in samsara. That is a somewhat nihilistic view of nirvana, of Buddhahood. And in fact, you could say it's a pre-Mahayana understanding. In the Mahayana understanding, achieving the state of Buddha doesn't turn you into nothing and therefore useless, but rather being Buddha makes you most capable and most effective in liberating beings. So then what about the three types of bodhisattvas based on the three types of bodhicitta? I will say that there are not three options, like there are three ways to do this. I would say these are three perspectives of what it looks like, what it feels like to be on this bodhisattva path. The king-like way is the way that it actually happens. When Buddhas become Buddhas, how did Buddha Shakyamuni become Buddha? How did Amitabha become Buddha? How did Medicine Buddha become Buddha? How did Tara become Buddha? Only through the king-like way, which is work hard to swiftly achieve the state of freedom from confusion, freedom from afflictive emotions, all Buddha qualities manifested. Full authority of a king, of an emperor, so to say. That is the only way. So even in our opening recitation, right, we say, swiftly may I achieve the state of complete Buddha. It doesn't say, swiftly may I achieve to one step before Buddha and then stick around. Swiftly may I achieve the state of Buddha. There's no postponing. From the perspective of how much courage do you need to have, then it has to be like the shepherd-like bodhicitta. Meaning, like the shepherd, you have to feel as if, if in helping others achieve Buddha, I need to put my own need to rest, to be peaceful. If I need to sacrifice that, I have to be willing to do it. So from the perspective of courage, we need to develop the courage that shepherd-like bodhisattvas have, which is putting the interest and the well-being of others in front of us, before us, rather than me first, me first, me first. So in terms of courage, it needs to be as strong as the shepherd-like. Then to avoid the problem of reinforcing dualistic ideas, me first, you first, you first, me first, we need to have the pilot-like attitude, which is, we're all in this together. The pilot knows, if I safely navigate this plane, then my passengers arrive safely, I arrive safely. If I don't do that, I endanger my passengers, I endanger myself. So it is for the good of self and other that I need to do this. Also, too much king-like bodhicitta. Too much. Meaning, what does it mean? It doesn't literally mean too much, but if it is done wrong, you can be a very bossy bodhisattva. And too much shepherd-like bodhisattva, you can become a very doormat bodhisattva, everybody wiping their feet on you. Oh, you first, you first, you first. Even feels like fake, going around going, oh, may you attain first, may you attain first. Very annoying to be around people like that as well. Like Dharma centers, you'll run into these two types of, supposedly king-like and shepherd-like bodhisattvas, the shepherd-like is like, oh, you are so great, I'm so nothing, or, I know everything. Yeah. So these are, you encounter these types, kind of false humility and false, pride. So we should adopt the pilot, ferryman-like, which is the pilot only thinking of himself? No. Is the pilot only thinking of others? No. The pilot understands the happiness and well-being of self and other are inextricably tied. We either arrive together or we don't arrive at all. So let's get serious about this. Let's work together on this. Yeah, so I offer you this to think about, what these three types of bodhisattvas, based on the three bodhicitta, is really talking about. I can tell you, I have read many commentaries and teachings. They take it quite literally. Oh, you can choose this, you can choose this, you can choose this. I just don't think it makes any sense to approach the three types this way. So this I'm offering you to consider. Don't take my word for it. You think about it. Then just for your added information, for educational purposes, in the Tibetan tradition, when generating bodhicitta vow ceremonies are done, it can be done according to what's known as the Nagarjuna way, or it can be done according to the Asanga way. The Nagarjuna way is called the lineage of profound view. The Asanga way is called the lineage of vast practices or vast activities. So then there are two different styles of giving the bodhicitta vow, or facilitating the generating of bodhicitta vow. So it is said that in the tradition of Nagarjuna, aspiration and action bodhicitta vows are taken together in the profound view lineage, Nagarjuna. In the vast activities, vast practices lineage of Asanga, the aspiration and action bodhicitta vow are taken separately. So they say when you do it separately, then what happens is you recite verse 23, the first two lines, and then verse 24, the first two lines, because those first two lines are pertaining to aspiration bodhicitta. Then after that you recite the third and fourth lines of verse 23 and the third and fourth line of verse 24. Now, depending on the Chinese and Spanish translation, how it's translated, it might not be literally the lines that I just mentioned. But just remember, right, when we discuss 23 and 24, we say basically first part is aspiration, second part is engagement of each of the verses. Verse 23 is saying, I will follow the example of the great beings, the Buddhas, the great Bodhisattvas. Verse 24 is saying, and now I do it, right? So then when you take the aspiration and action aspects separately, then recite first part of 23 and first part of 24 first. Then second part of 23, second part of 24, separately. If you do it all together, then just verse 23 and 24. Just so you know, there are all sorts of discussions on all sorts of things all the time. Then you'll say, is there a difference other than just how it's done, to take it separately or take it together? Oh yes, there is also discussions about that. So they say, you take it, those who emphasize you should take them separately, which is Asanga's tradition. They are done that way to emphasize how right now for beginners, mostly you focus on aspiration. You really need to make the aspiration part, right? I want to be Buddha for the sake of beings. I want to be Buddha for the sake of beings. That you really need to strengthen that. Put like maybe 85% of your energy, if not 100% of your energy on that aspect. Then when that is strong and stable, then you can do the things you need to do to make that happen. meaning action bodhicitta. And so, even in terms of the ceremony, this is divided more clearly into two. So that is in defense of taking the two as two separate parts. Then, in defense of the approach of taking those two together, the emphasis there is that you should think of these two as not so much like sequential, first one, then the second, or that somehow that one is opposed to the other, that you need to do one first and then the other. But that at all times, these two need to go hand in hand. Then sometimes again, in all these discussions, they say, oh, one way is for those with less capacity, another way is for those with greater capacity, and lots of things like that. My approach, I would say, to share with you, is to say, don't be rigid. Sometimes we feel one way, sometimes we feel another way. Buddha gave 84,000 dharmas for us to apply in 84,000 situations. We often find ourselves in this situation, that situation. If we are rigid about it, then our Dharma practice becomes very tight, very inflexible. And then the more you practice, the more tight it gets until you explode. That's not how we practice the Dharma. Now I have to say, there is the kind of the old school, which is very much, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like, you don't let anything slip, because the moment you slip, everything will go wrong. And maybe it's helpful for some people to feel like that, always triggered, I would say, always like, but to me, I don't know. Do you get the sense of this is what Shantideva is wanting you to do? Think about it. Don't just listen to how culturally it is done. Look at Shantideva. What is he telling us? So now let's take a 10-minute break. When we come back, I want to elaborate on this expression step by step. It says here, right, in verse 23 and 24, it says, I will cultivate this step by step. I want to elaborate on that. I also want to elaborate on from whom do you take these vows from? Like in whose presence should you take this vow? And when you take it, the essence, how do you take it? So I will talk about that. Then also to answer some questions. And then, maybe we'll finish chapter 3 today. And then in the next class, we'll start chapter 4, the chapter on carefulness. So let's take a 10-minute break now. Wageshware Mum Wageshware Mum Wageshware Mum Wageshware Mum Wageshware Mum Wageshware 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 Wageshware Mum
Om Wageshware Wageshware 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 Om Wageshware Wageshware
So let's see. So in terms of the actual ceremony, the best thing is to be able to take this vow to generate these two aspects of bodhicitta in the presence of a teacher whom we have respect, admiration, and confidence in. Because what happens then is that when we do this in the presence of someone whom we respect, admire, and we feel, like they are a model of embodying bodhicitta, then the effect is very powerful on us. It really impresses on us, that we have now done this in the presence of someone who embodies these vows. So the best is to do it in that way. if we're not able to do it in the presence of someone like that, then it says that we can do it in front of representations of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. The representations of Buddha's body refer to tankas, statues, images. Representation of Buddha's speech refer to Dharma texts, more specifically either texts that contain sutras or tantras, words spoken by the Buddha especially. Then representations of the Buddha mind are stupas, or images of stupas. Some of you are very fortunate to have stupas close to where you are. It's in fact quite amazing. A friend of mine in Malaysia, a good Dharma friend, he says, it's very interesting to see that in the West, in the far-flung places where the Dharma barely exists, more than around 100 people in that area, that people can have such great inspiration to build a stupa. Whereas he says, even in Malaysia, we barely see any stupas around. And so those of you who have stupas within reach of where you are, you should make effort to go take care of it, protect it, clean it, support it, because this is the Buddha mind and an expression of Buddha mind. Just as a footnote, I'm waiting for, as the rest of you are too, waiting for coronavirus karma to move on. Then one of the places I've been wanting to go is, of course, well, you all know the stupa in Nepal, the Bodha stupa. But also in the Western Hemisphere, I want to go to the Cusco stupa in Peru. So if any of you want to go, we can go together, either to Nepal or to Peru. And recently, when I was in Mexico, I went there to do the consecration of this land that they intend to build a stupa that is 21 meters high. So that means like a 5-story high building. It's going to be the largest, I think, in Latin America. So we dedicate merit to the successful completion of this stupa. Major project. So anyway, so in the presence of representations of Buddha's body, speech, and mind, ideally all three, if not at least one, right? You can generate the bodhicitta, take the bodhicitta vow. So the ceremony can be very simple. So you begin with taking refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha. Then if you can, you do the 7-branch prayer. Then after that, you say, "O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, think of me. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, think of me. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, think of me." That means you invoke the presence of the Buddhas. And if there's a teacher involved in the ceremony, then you say, "O teacher, O preceptor, think of me. O preceptor, think of me. O preceptor, think of me." Then you basically repeat verse 23 and 24 3 times. It is said that then at the 3rd recitation, you should feel that now, I have generated bodhicitta. Or you can also think, with the first recitation, you have generated aspiration bodhicitta. With the second recitation, you have generated action bodhicitta. With the third recitation, it's the confirmation that both aspiration and action bodhicitta has been generated. Then verse 25 says, let's read verse 25 together. Those who thus with clear intelligence take hold of bodhicitta with bright and lucid joy, that they may now increase what they have gained, should lift their hearts with praises such as these. And that's referring to verse 26 to 34. So you can then, verse 25 basically says, if you have received this, if you have generated this, then the following verses from 26 to 34 is what you should think of, what you should say, what you should think of, which is verses for rejoicing, to enhance, it says, to enhance your joy. So a lot of emphasis on joy. If you don't do this joyfully, then it's pointless. Don't do it. If you do this under force, if you do this feeling sad, if you do this, feeling like, oh, it's something very heavy. No, Shantideva doesn't teach it that way. So Shantideva then give these verses from verse 26 to the end of this chapter to 34. It's verses of reminding yourself, how fortunate. So he says, like 26, it says, today I take birth in the Buddha's line, meaning I have now become part of the Buddha's family. I am now a child of the Buddha. I am now the successor to the Buddha. Our Buddhist culture, because of maybe Asian culture, sometimes it's very formal, very kind of not very expressive, But here, we should learn a little bit maybe from these like evangelical Christians, This is like a born again moment, when you have been baptized, hallelujah, So this is basically verse 26. It says, today I have been born, in the Buddha's family. Now I'm a child of the Buddha. I'm going to be the successor of the Buddha. And rejoice. So when you take this vow, you should dress, well. You should prepare flowers. You should prepare offerings, things that are delightful. Then it says, the next verse, it says, in every way then I will undertake activities befitting such a rank. So this is really, we always have to remember, now I am in the family of the Buddha. Now I'm going to be the future successor of the Buddha. And so I will act in a way that will not embarrass, so to say, or bring bad reputation to this family. It says, I will not do anything to ruin the reputation of this faultless lineage, the lineage of the Buddha. So in the book that was recently translated and published, called The Great Drigong Teachings to the Assembly, there, the very first teaching, there are 30 teachings in there, the very first teaching, Kyopa Jiten Sumgön says, when we talk about lineage, you need to know that what we are talking about, there he really shows clearly, we're not even talking about like Tibetan Buddhism lineage or Kagyu lineage, Nyingma lineage, this lineage, that lineage. He says the lineage that we should be most concerned about is the lineage of bodhicitta. Do you have that lineage or not? If you have that lineage, it is more than sufficient. If you don't have that lineage, then whatever Nyingma, Kagyu, Tibetan, Tantra, Mantra, Dzogchen, blah, 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 all of that, is not going to bring us the result that we want. He says the two bodhicittas, relative and absolute, that is the lineage that is transmitted from Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, down to our teachers and our teachers to us. Be sure that you have that lineage. Be sure that you're part of that lineage, which is also what Shantideva is talking about here. Verse 28, it says, "For I am like a blind man who has found a precious gem inside a heap of dust. For so it is by some strange chance that bodhicitta has been born in me." It's sort of reflecting on like, oh, how in the world did I even come to this point of generating this bodhicitta? So sort of saying like, until now, this is like a heap of dust. But even from within this heap of dust, from the mess that I am, so it's saying, like it's okay, we are all messed. We're all messed up. We're all very messy. We're all like very disappointing on some level, on some days to ourselves, to others. But that's okay. Today, from within this mess, from within this situation, I have found this precious gem. Like a blind person, I have found this gem, this bodhicitta. So I rejoice, So this jewel, this diamond, from the perspective of absolute bodhicitta, it's our Buddha nature, our Buddha essence. From one perspective, you can say relative bodhicitta is something that we actively cultivate. Absolute bodhicitta is something that in the process of actively cultivating relative bodhicitta, we will come to discover. And when that happens, then relative and absolute bodhicitta becomes recognized, experienced, actualized as non-dual. So actually the different words like bodhicitta, Buddha nature, nature of mind, Mahamudra, great perfection, Dzogchen, all of that, right? They are different vocabulary pointing at the same thing. So here, using the vocabulary of bodhicitta and emphasizing more the cultivational aspects of this, meaning you have to apply effort, you have to do, you have to increase, you have to improve. So then it says this bodhicitta on verse 29 is the greatest wealth. If you have this wealth, then it can dispel the poverty of all sentient beings, of all wandering beings. It can also take us to the deathless state by destroying Yama, who is the Lord of Death. It can help us overcome birth and death. Verse 30, it is the supreme medicine. But it doesn't mean, bodhicitta right now, can cure all illness. Okay, please continue to see your doctor. This is not Buddhist Pentecostal church, okay? It is the tree that gives relief, that provides shade for those who are travelers, exposed to the hot sun, to the weather. It will help cool us down, it says. It is also the bridge that will take us to the other side. This is verse 31. And it is like the cooling moon that appears in the sky that soothes the heat that we all feel in the daytime. It is the sun that dispels all darkness. verse 32. It is the butter, is the essence of the milk of the dharmas, of the 84,000 dharmas. The essence of all the 84,000 dharma is this bodhicitta. Then 33, it says, all you who wander around on samsara's paths, looking for happiness, looking for rest, looking for protection against suffering. Here it is, right in front of you today. This is what you have found. So, your wishes have been fulfilled, right? Again, hallelujah, And 34, and so today, within the sight of all protectors, within the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as witnesses, I now call all beings to come with me to Buddhahood. So this is the pilot. I summon all beings, calling them to Buddhahood, and say, I have the Mahayana. What's the biggest plane these days? I don't know what, Airbus or Boeing or whoever makes it. I have this great plane. Come with me now. You call all to come with you together. You invite all of them to come. Until that state is reached, to every earthly joy. So now Shantideva says, and until that is reached, bodhicitta can also bring you ordinary worldly joy. Of course, due to the ripening of our individual negative karma from the past, especially when we begin to engage the path seriously, those negative karma might start to ripen, and then we experience suffering. But it is said that these sufferings are actually smaller versions of otherwise greater suffering if we did not apply the Dharma. So yes, of course we're going to face difficulties. Of course there are going to be challenges. But if we remember bodhicitta, if we have bodhicitta, it will soothe those sufferings. And even in the midst of suffering, even in the midst of challenges, there is an underlying joy that is present if we are engaging in the Dharma in the right way. The last line says, may gods and demigods and all the rest also rejoice. That means all the worldly powers. May you all also recognize what a wonderful thing is happening now, today, here. Yeah, so with this, we end, we finish complete chapter 3. We don't have time today for questions, but maybe next session we will start with some opportunity to ask questions. So we'll do the dedication for today. I have an appointment that I have to, and I'm sure some of you also have things you have to do already. So we'll end with the Bodhicitta dedication. Changju Semcho Rinpoche Mage Banam Ge Gyurche Ke Ba Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gone Gong Du Bel War Shou. Also, next Tuesday when we meet, I have an announcement to make regarding this course. No, this course will continue, don't worry. But there is a second way to become more engaged with this course, which is that I'm going to offer what we've been doing now. You can just continue doing this, don't worry about it. Then you will be auditing this course. There will be the option of taking this course for credit. I'm going to talk about on Tuesday what for credit means and who is accrediting, who is giving you credit. I'll talk about that on Tuesday. So if you're interested in learning more, try to attend Tuesday class. Okay, Tata.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenos días.
Hi, Dr. Lee. Thank you.
Tata, good night.
Bye, Dr. Lee.
Morning. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good evening. Have a good day. Have a good midnight.
Thank you.
Gracias.